Welcome to Beyond Well with Sheila Hamilton.
Testing 1, 2, 3, 4.
And welcome to 2020.
There we go.
2019 was our first year.
This could get just so much fun.
And we invited in some amazing guests.
Let's get a level on.
We had some amazing topics.
I know. I want that story.
And we'd like to thank you for supporting the show.
Yeah.
So we thought it might be fun before we dive headlong into the new year.
All right. Everybody's level looks good, right?
To take a quick look back.
Okay.
At a few of our faves from 2019.
3, 2, 1.
In June of 2019, Sheila invited singer, performer, and force of nature Storm Large into the studio. And then after the show, someone forgot to hit the stop button on record. So stick around for a little fly-on-the-wall bonus material of Beyond Well Solutions.
I'm Sheila Hamilton along with Dr. Jenna Lejeune. Hello, Jenna.
Hi there. What an exciting morning.
And Dr. Brian Goff. Good to see you again, Brian.
Hello.
And I have to say, when I look at our calendar of all of the guests that we have coming in, I think the one that was furthest out and so excited me was my good friend Storm Large. Hello, Storm.
Hello, Sheila. How are you?
I'm so well, and we're so happy. All three of us are huge fans of yours, so it's like very cool to have you in. In her memoir, Crazy Enough, and the one-woman show that's based on that same title, Storm Large chronicles her early years in a family at the mercy of a mother who suffered acute mental health problems, along with a dad who really did not know what the hell to do with his daughter. Do you think that's fair?
Quite.
So Storm visited her mom many times in the hospital where she was until she was 9 years old, when she asked a doctor if she would end up crazy like her mother. And I want you to start there, Storm, with the answer.
The doctor basically said, I expected him to say, oh, of course not. No. Don't you worry about a thing. You know, when you ask somebody and hoping, expecting a different answer. But anyway, he hardly even looked at me, and it wasn't a diagnosis. It was just, you will absolutely end up like your mother. It's hereditary. And then said, not until your 20s, though, or whenever you have children, whichever comes first. And I was already just kind of, when you're afraid of something and then you hear it outside your head, you're convinced, you're upset, but you're not totally surprised. He went on to say, but we know what to do now. I mean, we understand your mother's illness, and you're going to be fine, kind of a half-assed comforting thing. But meanwhile, my mother was bandaged from her thumbs to her elbows from having carved herself up so many times. And yeah, they didn't know. And so it was... basically, he's like, here, kid, hold this sword of Damocles. It's going to fall on your head eventually. Don't worry. It'll be quick.
It's fascinating to me, Jen. The same thing happened to me in my attempt to research what might happen with Sophie because of the genetic risk. Mm-hmm. How often do families hear this? Well, there was mental illness in your family, so there's a 50% chance that you're going to carry it.
Right. Yeah. This is part of the problem with talking about these things as if they're diseases. Mm-hmm. Psychological suffering doesn't work in that same way. And it's also just not very useful, right? So there are lots of things that we can do if we might be more susceptible to struggling in a particular way psychologically to help keep us healthy and balanced and all of those things. And those are the things to focus on, not making some very not factually based kind of crystal ball predictions about, yes, you are now damned to be this way.
Well, my anecdotal experience of psychology and what was from what was happening to my mother to what was said to me to what I believed about myself for a really long time, as I was just studying sort of symptoms. Be like, oh my God, I've done that. Oh my God, I've said that. Oh my God, I've thought that.
Oh,
and you're afraid anyways. But I mean, back in the day, it was these doctors kind of had to know what they were saying. Every diagnosis my mother received was a very cavalier, assured, we know what it is, we know how to treat it. They had to say it because I don't know if it had to do with insurance back then, because there were periods of time where mental issues were not covered.
Right.
And then there were times when they were.
Yeah.
And I knew that by how Christmas would go. If mom had insurance for her issues, we would have a great Christmas. And if the insurance wasn't covering it, Christmas would be at grandma's house.
Wow.
Which is, that's really, it's so much worse for so many other people. But it's like life or death. We were not going to end up on the street because of my mom's illnesses, but we needed everybody in the family to chip in and help. Wow. So the doctors, taking all of our money and all of our resources and all of our time, had to sound like they knew what they were saying.
That makes total
knew what
sense.
they were doing. And it's a business thing, and it sucks. And I think that still exists.
And people who are struggling in that way too, like, of course you want
an answer.
Want an answer.
Yeah.
You want, like, oh, it's this thing, and you know what it is, and you're going to save me from it. So it's it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And yet it's so damaging.
It's been damaging for years, but I don't see it changing very much.
No. There's a lot of discussion now, though, about the inaccuracies of the DSM, how wide it's grown, how it's really created a new class of insurance nightmares because of the different variations of it. And when you see people in your practice, you see them as just human beings all struggling with different things. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, the DSM, the manual, that's the manual for mental disorders. Every version, every iteration that it comes out, there's this exponential growth in the various ways that we can be wrong,
right?
That we can be broken, and those things are codified, crystallized, as though you could draw blood and look at it and be like, oh, well, you have the fourth variation of this secondary thing of this. And we talk about them, like Jenna was saying, we talk about them as though they are certain medical. I'm thinking about what you were told. Sounds like a crystal ball thing. Like this one line on your hand says that when you're in your 20s, you're going to suffer from this disease.
But how guilty do you think the pharmaceutical company is for that as well? Because they need to draw a line from this prescription to this specific diagnosis, and the more prescriptions they have we need more things wrong with people.
That's right.
I'm being very cynical here. I'm not blanket carpet bombing shade across all of that.
Right.
But it really does seem that way. Just for the simple fact that sometimes a drug will fail catastrophically, spectacularly, and then it'll show up for something else.
Oh, it's really true.
Like Propecia was for
hair loss.
Is for hair loss, but it was originally thalidomide.
Yeah.
Which resulted in, limb loss. And
limb or hair? Anyone here?
I have way too many limbs. My hair is great, but just so many arms and legs.
So Storm went on, despite the doctor telling her that she was going to be mentally ill. Really one of the most prolific creative geniuses that I know. A musical performer, a fierce activist for LGBTQIA, a women's reproductive rights activist. She's a member of the internationally famous band Pink Martini. She went on to have some years that were really tough. If you think about your years in New York City where you really struggled at the academy, and then with heroin, with being very sexually promiscuous, do you tie it back to that doctor telling you, well, you're going to be crazy?
I do, because my evidence of crazy was really the only woman in my life, my mother. And my mother was physically very small, a very petite little thing. And so as soon as I was associated with being locked up and alone, and everybody would kind of roll their eyes quietly, oh, Susie, talking about my mother. And my mother was always crying and always trying to die and always needing so much that everybody pulled away. And so I was like, I have to be the opposite of that. So I'm never going to cry. I'm never going to cry. I'm not going to be weak. I'm not going to need help. I am going to drink heroically, do drugs. I'm going to do whatever I can to not be her. But ironically, her number one like crazy laser focus was, somebody please love me, love me, love me. And she associated being sick with getting everyone to react in a crisis. She associated that with being loved. And for me, I also felt so unloved because my parents were gone. So my number one pursuit was to feel loved as well. But I went about it in a much more muscular, really reckless way. In a way, kind of, I mean, you could call it somewhat masculine. I just went boldly out into the world and was like, you know what? Go ahead and fight me, bro. I will out crazy you.
Yeah, I love that.
You know, I will out screw you. I will out drink you. I will survive all this.
Wow, beautiful.
Suck it.
Her one woman show is the 10th anniversary, and crazy enough, are there any seats left at the show?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah, it's a short engagement because I've got such a really heavy touring schedule, but honestly, I wanted to revisit it. Number one, kind of selfishly, I wanted to revisit it to see if I could do it. You know, I was 40 and it almost killed me because it ran for 5 months straight. And now I'm going to be 50, and it's a short run, but it's also I'm in a healthier, different place, and want to see how I viscerally respond to revisiting myself.
That's a beautiful thing. Can we hear a song from it?
Sure. This is the first song I wrote when I finally agreed to do the show. Before I named it, it was like the sad stupid idea that a sad story can be cool. Call me crazy, 'cause I am, and alive. Oh, I am alive. That's the way I turn a nosedive into flight. Call me psycho, ooh, 'cause I am. Oh, and I am alive. Thank God I am alive. I make music out of those voices in my mind. And this crazy helps me to see this as funny. Makes me feel rich with no money. Honey pie. Then my brain goes over and over it. Oh, I know that I can't get away from a shadow landmine. Call me later, ooh, just to see that I got home alive. Oh, when I am alright. I'm just kidding, you know me. I'll be just fine. It's this crazy, it helps me to see death as funny. Makes me feel great with no money. Honey pie. Then my brain, it goes over and over it. Don't I know that I can't get away from her shadow? Can I call me crazy, because I am. Oh, but thank God I'm alive.
This is our first live audience here at Beyond Well with Sheila Hamilton, welcoming all of our friends and some supporters today. Brian, what did you hear in the lyrics of that you just love? I mean, part of it for me is if everyone thought about the things that they think are their weaknesses and they turn them into like, oh, that's my vulnerability, that's where I'm really feeling. Maybe there's something there to draw on creatively, magically, like you do, Storm, every single song.
Well, I mean, hopefully, the point for me is always just like, does this sound like BS, or does this feel genuine to me?
Yeah.
And it's very, it would be a lie if I said I always felt that my potential whatever illness was a strength. But you hit the nail on the head with vulnerability, because that was my biggest fear forever, was to cry on stage, was to be weak.
Yeah.
But as soon as I found my vulnerability on stage one time, quite by accident, I realized it was the most powerful part of me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As an artist and as a performer, because to be vulnerable like that, to be lit, electrified, big, mighty, sex pot, muscle bound, tough ass MF, on stage, and to crack open.
Yeah.
Absolutely in kind. Everybody cracks open, and there's a huge healing that happens. And it's the same with storytelling, as you do, and as we share.
Yeah, what I just sitting here watching you sing that song, there is there's like a reclaiming of some of those words, like crazy and psycho. And what I heard was, instead of me running away from who I might be or who I might become or the stuff that I feel, I will not run from me. This is me. I feel this. I'm alive.
And honestly, the saddest and sickest I've ever been, and the saddest and sickest I've ever seen anyone, is fighting that, fighting who they are. And yes, maybe there are aspects to some mental illness that is very dangerous and needs to be like healed and talked about and worked on. But for the most part, there's a lot of nuance, and people are just trying to keep it together, be normal, and compare themselves to what they perceive as normal. But I mean, I used to be, I still sort of am, a super dork about true crime and serial killers and stuff like that. And what do they all say about the serial killer when they found out he's been collecting human ears for his whole life? They're
He
like,
seems so normal.
He was so normal. He was the most normal guy you'd ever want to meet. Yeah.
So true.
Don't be normal, man. Don't embrace it. You just figure out who you are, figure out who you're not, and be and not be.
Don't run away from it.
Yeah.
The first time that I ever saw Storm, I'd moved to Portland, and I was in a yoga class, and I'm sitting like I'm a very bad yoga person. Like I attempt to try to do yoga again and again, and I can never really do it. So I'm a constant beginner. But this woman walks in, and because this is a podcast and people aren't going to be able to see you, Storm, you present as like an Amazon queen. And she takes off her shirt, and there's this tattoo from like shoulder blade to shoulder blade that says lover. And I read the story behind your tattoo, and you will have to share it. It is so good. It's so good.
Well, it's just when I lived in San Francisco, I was kickboxing, and not just at a gym for exercise. And I loved it, and it was really cool. It was this gritty, dirty gym full of like gang guys and reformed gang guys and like hardcore dudes. And I wasn't anyway actually sparring and fighting and connecting, but I was just, learning. And in the gym, the dudes all had these intense like cholo type tattoos, killer, butcher, Rodriguez, Pitbull, stuff written in old English writing. And I was dating a tattoo artist at the time, and we were talking about what tattoo I wanted. I was like, I want a big, gnarly, like tough looking tattoo that says something really nice, like butterfly or kiss me, or like something like so like fluffy bunny, like something silly like that. And then I thought, my boyfriend George at the time was like, well, what do you think? What describes you? It's going to be on you forever. And I was like, well, lover. Mm-hmm. And he goes, yeah, absolutely. That's who you are. And so I did it ironically, but at the same time, it's kind of the perfect description because people see me and they're like, oh my God, don't kill me. Please don't kill me.
That's so awesome.
Guys sometimes come up to members in my band. I'm in a band with all boys, and we've been together forever, and they're like my brothers. But someone walked up to my guitar player and said, and basically said, there's a very wealthy gentleman over at my table who would be very interested in talking to your singer. And my guitar player had a few drinks, and he goes, he wants Storm Large to be some arm candy? Why don't you go back and ask him if he's ever been on a mechanical bull that punches?
That's so awesome.
And that's kind of my patina. That's how people kind of see me, and that's how I've developed my external self out of like, you're not going to get me. But anybody, and you know me really well, I will cry, and I'm such a mush, and I see a dead bird, and I'm like, no! I'm like this totally mushy little like candy heart.
Yeah. But that tattoo is so perfect.
That's why it's perfect. It looks tough, but it's...
Exactly.
Right.
And kind of from Brian and my perspective, the way that we would define kind of mental health is this idea of psychological flexibility. It's being able to have all aspects of yourself. So you can have the badass kind of tough script.
Right.
And also be that lover.
Yeah.
And I love that. That's so beautiful.
Great.
Do what works in whatever context you're in.
So you said that your next tattoo is going to be on your sternum. Very painful, by the way, I heard.
Yeah, the ribs are the most
going
painful,
to be follow the yes or just yes?
It's going to be yes over my heart, because that's just been my motto since I got healthy, since I got off drugs and really started to embrace all aspects of me, including the things that seem to contradict themselves or whatever. I know what healthy is. I know what joy is. I'm learning self-care. Self-care to me used to mean like self-control.
Yeah.
Work out. Don't eat that. Like be, don't think that way. It was like very kind of a controlling thing, instead of just like, you know what, soak in the shower and lay like just cover your body with olive oil, just like lay there, just do whatever you got to do to just take care of your body, take care of your mental health, and that can also mean reading Stephen King, Neil Gaiman, just whatever, candy.
It was great, Storm. One of your Instagrams, you posted like your pre-concert stuff that you have to go through to get yourself energetically to a place where you can do that. I was so glad you posted it, because I think a lot of people just think, well, Storm's gorgeous and she puts on a little makeup and she goes out and she does her show, and that's such an easy life. Like, I have more respect for this woman in terms of how much work you do to continue to perform, and describe for people what it takes just emotionally to get ready for a show and then to leave it on the stage as you do.
Well, first of all, but what a lot of people don't understand about being a touring musician is imagine you got to go somewhere for Christmas and you're bringing your whole family, and you go through the whole thing, getting the tickets, finding the right seats, and then get everybody there on time. Make sure, we forgot. Darn it, you forgot your frickin' sweater. Well, we're going to have to buy one when we get there. And then, man, the flight's delayed. We're going to miss our connection. No, stress. But you're in the back of your mind, you're like, well, when we get there, though, I can get a drink with an umbrella in it and sit on my butt and get some sun. Now, imagine all the stress of travel, but 0 drinks with umbrellas, and you get there and you have to be charming and clean and look hot, and you have to care about absolutely everything somebody is saying to you. And then you have to get on stage, get a whole huge room full of people sitting around in the dark, get them to fall in love with you and buy stuff, and then you have to continue to do that into the night until that door behind you in the hotel room closes, because God forbid you lose your temper because you didn't get any sleep, or you have a cold and you're on steroids so your voice won't close up.
Right.
And you have literally from the moment you hit the pillow, you have about 5 hours to sleep. You have to sleep, because then you have to get up and then you have to be on the radio and then you have to get to the airport and then you have to check all the and do it over again. It's like, it's brutal.
Yeah.
The traveling alone is brutal. For me, when I get on stage, with all things are going well, I'm hydrated, I'm not sick.
Yeah.
And it's not like the 5th show in 4 days where I'm really super, super fatigued. That is the easy part once I get on stage, because then I am in my flow, I am in my place, I am in my comfort zone. And really, the challenge is just not to swear at that point.
Isn't it so wonderful that we've left you off the hook here today? You can do whatever you want.
What? We're not live? Oh, fuck yeah! Oh, good. Let that dog out of the yard, Sheila.
That not swearing thing is a big problem for my job,
I know,
too. That's
I'm
what
sure.
I'm constantly
I'm
thinking
sure.
about it. Don't swear, Jenna.
I've gotten really good at it. I've gotten really good
I
at it,
know.
though. Actually, we do a lot of stuff with symphonies, and I'll look down and I'll see a little kid, and I'm like, somebody's mommy and daddy don't have Google. Hi, why are you in the front?
You're going to learn some new words.
Yeah, when a boy or a girl are in love.
Storm, I heard that some Broadway producers came to you after the first run of Crazy Enough, and they wanted to turn it into a Broadway show, and they were asking you to really change it up.
Yeah.
So what did you say to them?
Oh, well, ultimately, I was just kind of, because I'm new at this. I wrote the book, and I was like, I'm a tourist in the literary world. I'm a performer. It's basically like being a writer after being a performer for so many years is like trying to get a dog to be a cat.
Yeah.
And it was really just felt like a weird fit, but I did okay, because I turned it sort of into a performance in of itself in the show, etc. And they kept trying to well, it needs to be sophisticated. I'm like, but I'm not sophisticated. And they're like, yeah, but for New York audiences, it needs to be. Oh, they're giving it all this like precious criteria it had to be. And so I would rewrite and rewrite and rewrite and rewrite. Finally, I went to go see Carrie Fisher, Wishful Drinking. And I went and I watched, and I was like, that is the only difference between her show and mine is she doesn't sing. She's just telling stories. So I went back to the producers and the directors, and I was like, I just saw Carrie Fisher. I'm like, well, yeah, but that's Carrie Fisher. If you were Carrie Fisher, I go, oh, it said I'm not famous. So I am going to leave. And I don't have time to stay for you to finish.
Oh, that is just so. If there's any story that just like sums up your beauty, I think that might be it.
Like the mechanical bull just punched him.
Totally. Yeah, his 8 seconds is up. What Storm did though in that moment of saying, no, this is who I am. I need you to actually see who I am. I think could take so many people so far in their own healing.
Well,
I really do.
It's what we were saying before. It's Storm not turning away from her own experience and not whitewashing it or be what somebody else wants her to be.
Yeah.
Well,
this is my actual story.
Yeah.
But I would love to. I would love to take credit for that and to feel like, yeah, that's right, because I was born to be genuine. It's like, no, I'm a shitty liar. I can't be fake. If I could, I might be like super rich, But I just can't. I'm not. I just don't know how.
Yeah, and I also think though that you did work to be able to know who you were in order to be able to stand up for that. Like there are people who wouldn't even have because of their history, wouldn't even have a sense of self enough that they would be able to say, "Oh, I see. You're saying I'm something different than I am."
But that's that's entertainment also. Any stripe of entertainment, be it fashion, music, theater, film, television, with women, you got to be skinnier, younger, prettier, differenter, more like Selma Blair, more like Selma Hayek, more like, it's like you just don't be you and we'll figure it out.
Exactly.
And the music business was just, I mean, in the 90s especially, we're like, well, we need you to be, and there was like maybe 4 archetypes of woman you could be.
Yeah.
And somehow they all were yodeling in the 90s. And I was not really down
That wasn't your
with that.
thing.
I can totally yodel, but it wasn't my deal.
What are your thoughts about beauty and aging? You're going to turn 50 soon.
I'm turning
and you're
50
going to
at the end
strip,
of it. Yeah.
right?
Well, we didn't get a chance to do, I wanted to sell tickets to make it like a charity thing,
Yeah.
have hardcore security, no film, no pictures or
Yeah.
anything like that. We never got around to figuring it out, the charity thing. So I think I'm going to be 60.
Well, I'd still come to see you strip.
I'm
at
gonna strip at 60. That's about when I'm gonna start like folding up the tent and not touring as much. So I think I'm gonna launch my porn career right around there. That sounds good.
There's probably a subset that would really go
Oh,
for
girl,
that.
you'd be amazed.
So, one of the very interesting things that I think about Crazy is at the end of your journey of doing it, you said that it completely hollowed you out.
Oh, yeah.
You lost a ton of weight. You were emotionally so drained. But do you feel in some ways that in doing this, it was the journey that you needed to do to reconcile the story of who your mother was, of who Storm is?
It was weird because 10 years ago when I was doing the show, when I realized the effect it was having is why I drove myself. Because I saw I was being of use. I was being of service.
Yeah.
And it was killing me, and I wasn't getting the catharsis or the healing that everyone else was, but I was like, I'm doing good. So I should keep going. And sort of in a, I guess it's a codependent way with the audience. I'm like, then I'll be, if I can fix all this and help all these folks, then maybe I'll leave myself alone and and rest. And then I'll be like, okay, well, at least I helped this many people. And that's just the me trying to prove, to my dad, to teachers, to people who thought I was just a piece of shit. And that put those voices in my head that I was never going to be good enough or matter. I was like, well, if I do all this, then I'll matter. And that was the lesson, really. I started fainting. My hair started falling out in handfuls. But this was after the show wrapped. Like within that month, I fell apart and had really bad anemia and adrenal failure. And so I needed to experience that to know, yes, you can actually work yourself to death.
Yeah.
You literally can. So how about don't? And so that's why this show has been requested for the decade from everywhere. And they've wanted to film it, and they've wanted to animate it. They wanted to buy the rights, and they wanted to blah, 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 and make it a TV show.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, I can't. I got to do it again. I have to not slay the dragon, but just sort of do it for myself.
Wow, beautiful. Do you guys have any other questions before she sings us out? Jenna?
No, it's just such a pleasure to hear about your journey, and just it's really inspiring this way that you talk about sort of owning your own experience and process. And I love this piece of when you're doing something, if it's about, oh, I don't want to like feel worthless, or I want to like prove them wrong, there's something kind of hollow about it, as opposed to when you're doing it because this is my source of meaning in the world.
Right. It
could be exactly the same activity, but when you're doing it for somebody else, or you're doing it to get rid of some demon you have in your head, it's quite a different thing. So I love that you're reclaiming this.
Oh, thank you. It took me a long, long time, and I don't have children, but I can imagine mothers getting caught in that, especially if they're struggling with depression and struggling with, exhaustion. Parents struggle with exhaustion, but they're like, but I'm gonna put it outside myself, and then, yeah.
I'm excited to hear you play. I wanted to say something really quippy about like live large or something like that, right? But as I think about it, so much of your story, whether it was the sex or the drugs or the shows to benefit everybody but you, it all felt like, and sometimes Jenna and I use this language, moves away from, like I'm trying to get away from something. And when you say, no, enough of that, I want to do this for me, now it's not running away from things, it's running toward stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
One of my favorite mottos is by a female chief of the Cherokee Nation, Wilma Mankiller is her name.
Wow.
And her motto is be the buffalo. Be the buffalo is when a storm is coming over the plains, cows will run away to get away from the storm. Buffalo run towards it to get through it faster. So they know they can't avoid it, but get through it. Go straight.
Oh, wow.
And if I'm wrong about it, Wilma Mankiller being Cherokee or maybe Sioux, I might have the tribe wrong. Please forgive me. But look up Wilma Mankiller and be the buffalo. It's one of the finest mottos. And since now I know I can swear on this program here, I'm going to do my most feared and most requested song. That's also in Crazy Enough. All of my life I've never fit, but I won't complain and I won't quit because I am enormous. Get used to it. Yeah, man, everyone tells me I'm too much. Well, maybe it's just you're not enough for me. Oh, can't you see? I'm the kind of woman I'm supposed to be. Did I mention that? My vagina is 8 miles wide. Absolutely everyone can come inside. If you're ever frightened, just run and hide. My vagina, it's 8 miles wide. Ooh. Oh, come on now. Tell me, what is womanly to you? She should be strong, but not too much of a brute, because it's really cool if she's powerful, but it's way better if she's just cute, right? Yeah, well, for all of us girls who don't fit in, I say go Amazonian. You could be a kick-ass bruiser and be feminine. Now go and tell everybody my vagina is 8 miles wide. Absolutely everyone can come inside. If you're ever frightened, just run and hide. My vagina, it's 8 miles wide. Ooh. Now check it out. I am not loose, and I'm not a whore, technically. It's a metaphor for my super vigantastically mystical feminine goddess core. Oh, I hate it when women make that noise, that we don't need daddies, men or boys, 'cause even some hardcore girls love cock-shaped sex toys. Now, my vagina, obviously, is universal. It's just like a penis, but reversible. Come on in, man. The water is fine. It's not my vagina. Oh, it's our vagina. Come on. My vagina is 8 miles wide. Oh, come on. Woo-hoo. Oh, I only want to hear the men singing. Come on, boys. You know the words. Sing it. Come on, boys.
My vagina is 8 miles.
That's right. Don't be pussy. Absolutely everyone can come inside. If you're ever frightened, just run and hide my vagina. My vagina. Everybody sing. My vagina is 8 miles wide. Oh, absolutely everyone can come inside. If you're ever frightened, just run and hide my vagina. Ah, la, la, ooh, wide-eyed, wide-eyed. Vigantic, 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 a big, big love. Vigantic, 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 a big, big love.
Oh man!
Thank you
I
guys.
never get sick of that song ever. Stormlords,
Thank you guys
thank you
for being
so
sports.
much
You're
for
welcome.
joining
It's
us
my
at Beyond
pleasure.
Well.
Anytime, Sheila.
And
seriously.
if you like the podcast, please download, of course, and then tell your friends. We're on every platform, including a little one called Podbean. We're all trying to figure out. Thanks again.
After the Storm Large interview, we were kind of carried away. No one was really paying attention, and someone forgot to hit the stop button. Oops. The recording continued, so we got to hear the goings-on after the show. You get to hear a lot of noise around the room. There was no particular direction. No one was actually on their microphone. Let's call it, Welcome to Beyond Well Solutions Looks Back. At that time, we interviewed Storm Large, and we forgot to hit the stop button on recording. And it went on and on and on. Rolls off the tongue, doesn't it? We'll just play it till it ends. We pick up how Storm came about the song, 8 Miles Wide.
It's funny because of what I originally wrote it as sort of a fuck you to exclusionary feminism.
Yeah.
When I don't know if it was third wave or fourth wave or some wave was fucking telling me that I was some. There's been a lot of self-flagellation on the left.
Oh,
I got attacked the other day. I was introducing, my song for the marriage equality stand up for me.
Yeah.
I was introducing the song and I was saying, I just had this meditation about love and how, all of mankind is praying for love and wishing and for love and I just wondered what does love want from mankind? And I sing the song, people are like, oh, it's so beautiful. Someone came up to me and was like, Storm, people look up to you and you really need to be careful about what you say. And I said, I support gay marriage. And she was like, oh, no, I'm not talking about that. And I was like, okay. She goes, you said mankind.
Oh, jeez.
And I'm like, oh, so obviously I secretly meant Hitler. So what the fuck? I go, but do you realize that what I meant?
Of course.
Right? It wasn't just mankind. No one with an icky vagina, though.
Yeah.
Ew.
Not for them.
Not me either. Just the penises. Just them because they stick out and because it's God's plan. It's God's antenna is the cock. And that's all that matters.
So honestly, we've been having conversations about this.
We
We do need to have.
Totally.
Yeah.
I'll come
Yeah.
back because, and you know who I was talking with? Amanda Palmer and I just did a podcast on this.
Wow, that is so cool.
She's a good friend of mine, and our
please,
other friend
would you
Erica
promise
Moen, who does Oh Joy Sex Toys. She's been getting attacked for. She said she had like some kind of sexual encounter with a trans man, and she was like, God, I just love trans men. They're so hot.
Yeah.
And she's getting ripped, like totally attacked. You're anti-trans if if you sway for a moment, you're off.
Well, so we were talking about it's called cancel culture, and and my sister's writing about it a lot because at the university level, it's making a lot of the best professors resign because the cancel culture is so great that if you are called out for saying one thing wrong like that, you could lose your tenureship.
Yeah.
And so the whole idea is within friend groups, people are canceling friends
Yeah.
forever for one wrong tweet, for
Yep.
one wrong saying.
And not even a wrong thing, but
Right.
something you perceive
Yeah.
as
right.
being
Yeah.
wrong about
I
what
really want to do.
Yeah.
I want to do a podcast on cancel culture. I really do. I think
Because
it's so
that's how
important.
the right is like, they might be infighting, but they are goose stepping to the finish line with all of us going, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
It's
I
such
have
a-
zero tolerance for hate speak. I'm like, what did I say? You said albatross. They're not called albatross anymore.
Yeah.
They're called big bird of whatever color they want to be.
I know. Well, Brian was using a metaphor today about pigs, and after we finished, we're like, is it okay?
Can you
to
say
a
pigs?
pig in a
Can you say pigs in mud?
It's
Or are you
ridic-
allowed
it's
to say
ridiculous.
pig in mud?
And
Like, that was all right, right?
It used to be of the cuckold culture, and it's so racist. I can't believe you said pigs in a blanket because
It was don't mud wrestle with a pig. You both get dirty and the pig likes it.
You don't have any of the doctors or lovely Storm?
Yeah, I just want to I mean, is the does the spectre of mental health follow you all the time?
Yes.
Every moment of
Oh
the
yeah,
day?
not every moment. No, not every moment of the day. No, I'm not as easily distracted by the fear, but you know, I get depressed. I have depression, and I don't medicate. I meditate. That's one thing about me that I've had friends' lives saved by antidepressants. And I am terrified to the core of taking any psychotropic anything because of its stigma in my history. But I absolutely have that. I don't have the childlike fear anymore because I was like, what's it going to be like? Is it going to be like I'm a werewolf and you wake up at the zoo and you're like, you don't have any recollection of what happened, but there's blood on you and you're like, fuck, it happened, kind of thing. I don't have that childish paranoia anymore, but I do carry like what everybody else does in neuroses and anxieties and
I think that's
things.
the thing that I'd want to highlight is it's the thing that everybody carries. Right?
Yeah, we
so it's
all have it.
I'm
just
afraid
a
that I'm
different-
gonna.
yeah.
I'm afraid that I'm gonna what? Struggle?
Right.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
And I do, and we all do. And like, raise your hand if you don't have a little something. Right? We're all allowed to carry
Right.
Right?
Absolutely.
And so I think that's the thing is it's not as I heard it. It wasn't so much. And correct me if I'm telling you how you feel.
It's okay. No.
But like, I instead of being afraid that I'm gonna get some disease, wake up in the zoo all bloody and like I'm not me anymore. It's like, oh, I'm gonna struggle because I'm human, and I saw one version of that in my mom, and I'm concerned that that's what it's gonna look like for me. But here it is. It's shown up, and it's like, do I carry the specter of mental health? I carry my emotions. I carry my feelings. I have that full range of human experience.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Welcome to being human.
Exactly.
I mean, that's our attempt in all of this is to normalize and sort of destigmatize, but not dismiss.
Yeah.
Right?
Like, just take the shame out of just asking for help. Right. There is so much shame around just being like, I'm not okay.
Right.
People can't say that, especially in this society. Men especially have a difficult time because women, we count on each other. We're like, dude, I feel like fucking stabbing everyone in the eye. Me too. Let's go drink. You know, you know what I mean? And men are like, hey man, let's go have non-sexual contact but really violent sports. Yeah, and just drink and just stare in the middle distance and kind of thing. And I'm being really sexist with that oversimplification, and my apologies, but that's just in this culture. But there's, I think, in terms of when we're talking about abortion, people have so much shame around talking about sex itself.
Yeah.
That all these girls are getting pregnant. It's like, by themselves?
Spontaneously?
That's not a problem. That's fucking biblical. That's great. That means there's hella messiahs. There's all kinds of Jesuses coming. We're going to be fine, guys. It's going to be fine. But it's like...
It is. Yeah.
Have like after the pod.
Totally.
Post pod.
That's for the paid members.
Exactly. Yeah.
No, but seriously, it's like
You gotta
shame
join for this.
out of all the things we talked about today, I would say addressing the shame thing. And I think that's why my show was so effective, because people look at me and they think, oh my God, she's got it together. She's totally hot. She's kind of famous, and she probably just has everything really easy for her. And then I'm like, rip it open, and they're like, fuck, oh my God. Wow, me too. And then they're they feel empowered and less ashamed, less alone.
Yeah.
Shame is what separates human hearts.
So true. One of the transcripts that I read was when you were with a group of high school kids and nobody was owning up to doing heroin or doing any kind of drugs or having problems with sexual violence. Nobody was owning up to anything. And Storm comes in, and the principal is expecting her to start speaking, and instead she's on the floor with like people just talking. And suddenly, like, all of the kids are saying, yeah, I'm addicted.
Right.
Yeah, I'm
Right.
suicidal. Yes, I'm this. Yes, I'm that. Like, the power in having someone who comes and brings her whole self and her whole story.
Well, and
you know?
the thing I so love about your messages, because so often what we hear from folks who are in the limelight is, well, I used to suffer.
Right.
And then I figured it out.
Oh, yeah,
And now I don't. And like you being able to say, oh no, I still suffer. I've just learned how to have all of my experience and not try and run away from it with all of the other things.
Well, it comes with age too, but also I think in the last 10 years, mental illness has become way easier to talk about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And thank God. And you have been one of the main pioneers of that. And
thank you.
it's so helpful that people, even with just like just something they think is a little bit weird about them, and they will create such agony around the one little thing.
Yeah.
I know.
And create an entire new pain pattern for themselves.
Right.
Absolutely.
That they're medicating with bad behavior that bleeds into their family and into their community.
It's one of the famous, like one of the things I love most about my job, and Brian, you probably have this experience too. Like, people will come in, and sorry about my back there. People will come in and they'll say, I have this really, really terrible thing that I'm the only one in the whole world. And it's like, oh no, like what flavor of normal is this Tuesday? Like, and yet people sort of think nobody else struggles in this way.
Now, the last time I had a therapist, he was a very, very busy guy, a friend of a friend, and he made time for me because I was in this really heightened. I'd been touring nonstop. I was exhausted, and when you're really tired, and when I'm touring a lot, I start drinking more, and you're emotionally raw, and so he said, okay, so we have an hour. Why don't you tell me just off the top of your head what you think you can get out of therapy right now? And I said, I'm afraid I'm a narcissist. And he laughed, and he was like, okay, why do you think you're a narcissist? I'm like, I really care about what people think. And he goes, okay.
This is only going to take like 5 minutes.
I know, right? And he goes, okay, so tell me why else. I go, well, I'm a musician, and so my whole life is about like impressing people and being attractive, and I'm very externally motivated, and my inside, I'm so lonely and so sad and so tired, and I think it's narcissism. And he's like, okay, let's see. All right, what time is it? All right. First of all, narcissists don't think they're narcissists. First, let's just get that off the table. And I was like, what if I have you fooled? What if I have you fooled? I am very charming.
Wait for the DSM-6, because there's a narcissism that admits it. We're gonna come up with
which one? I mean, how do you know? I could be totally psychotic.
Oh my God.
And he's like, no, I'm pretty sure. He's like, first of all, the friend who recommended you has zero tolerance for that kind of behavior in any way, and so anyway, let's get to the bottom of it. And finally he admitted, he's like, okay, well, maybe you can have a narcissistic wound. I'm like, no, I'm really fucked up. And he's like, okay. He's like, all I hear is you trying to convince me that you're a piece of shit. That's all you're doing to me right now, is you're trying to convince me. So who told you that you're no good? And I'm like, what do you mean? And he goes, well, think about it. And then it was quick. He was good.
Wow.
He's like, you're not a narcissist. He's like, but you have a very common, it's a common thing. There's a voice that you totally assume is the truth.
Right.
Oh, God.
And he goes, but he did that thing, and I'm sure you guys have used this and heard it. Where's your proof?
Oh.
Where's your proof that you are a bad person? What did you do today just to fuck with someone?
Yeah.
What did you do today just to hurt someone? You know?
That's so
What's
good.
your proof? Right.
You know, it's also just so cool, just normalizing therapy, just like you just did. So here's what actually, we were talking about doing a session once, like what actually goes on in therapy.
Right.
Because I think people still have an idea that you have to lay down on a bed.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, go blame it on my dad. Or so many.
With mom.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Is it?
Okay, you go.
Ryan was obsessed with
You
moms.
go, Sheila. You take it out there.
It's always always blame it on the woman. Always blame it on the woman.
Yeah.
Well, we have holes in us, and we're flawed.
Yeah.
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 Oh, well, thank you so